sequence. Beautiful. And she's ready to go.
After so much skill and time spent, the end result is indeed worth it. Or what do you think?
Hello and welcome. It's time for another interesting package of
Everything music.
Angelina, you dey cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver.
This is Stocky Movies.
In times of old, the world was full of wonder.
Welcoming you to your weekend for today.
Right, so come patrol. It's time to use our voice.
Beyond Six Packs.
Bills.
Pay the bills, keep things up on you. Pay my bills.
Welcome to Gallery.
Me and my parties.
London for what?
London for medicine.
Medicine for what?
Medicine for coffee.
Are you sweetness?
To our illness.
Welcome to Gist Zone.
All right, my name is the Eselucien Wego One. Ona nyokoko nyonyo.
Did you get to see the way tell him about the post this?
Don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, child, and issue.
Actually cool. The idea come electoral.
Lyrics offer messages of hope as Christians observe the Holy Week.
We must hold firm. That was what he did. He suffered it. He went through it. But he emerged victorious.
Plateau Elders Forum condemns frequent attacks on communities in the state.
Southeast PDP presidential aspirants unite for consensus candidate.
We have agreed to work together as a team. We intend to consult with other zones on this issue, and it is based on fairness and equity.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today, we shall discuss lifting hit-at-home order in the Southeast.
Well, when the now proscribed separatist group, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB that is, first introduced the weekly sit-at-home in the Southeast, it was an annual event occurring once in a year to remember those who died in the Nigerian Civil War and to also push for justice and equity for the geopolitical zone.
Of course, Nadabo, but the sit-at-home later became a tool to protest against the arrest and detention of the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, who is currently standing trial for charges on treasonable felony and terrorism.
And so with the more recent motive, the sit-at-home by IPOB was regularly observed on Mondays for several months, and then freezing business activities and shutting down public offices, markets, banks, schools, and on such days in the cities, towns, and even village markets in the southeastern states of Nigeria.
Now, on such sit-at-home days, Nigerians in the southeast would not dare go out, as some of the enforcers of the order are quite overzealous, and several persons have been victims of the high-handedness of the enforcers.
And meanwhile, Kingsley IPOP has issued several statements that it has lifted the order and then urged people to ignore the sit at home. But other factional groups and criminal gangs still enforce the Monday sit at home, giving the impression of splinter groups in the fold of IPOP. And moreover, fear of attacks on violators has led to religious observance of the sit at home syndrome, and that's every Monday.
Including today.
Including today, yeah.
Dadabo. Now, the results have been grave consequences for the people of the Southeast or any visitor to the region on such sit-at-home days. Now, on such days, like Monday today, we understand that even persons who are ill cannot access healthcare or receive medical attention as hospitals are shut down like other critical sectors.
And no doubt for Nigerians in the Southeast, the sit at home is at detriment to their businesses, education, and other economic activities, with colossal losses to the government and virtually everyone.
Now, however, the recently sworn-in governor of Anambra State, Chukwuma Soludo, in a renewed bid to discontinue the sit-at-home syndrome, has offered amnesty to agitators in the state and directed all public servants and political office holders in the state to start reporting to their duty posts every Monday, as they do on other work days. Otherwise, they will face sanctions.
The governor, through a statement by the head of service, Anambra State, Mr. Theodora Ikwegwe, in Oka last Friday, was emphatic that absence from duty on Monday or any other official work day without approval will be viewed as serious misconduct, which will attract appropriate sanctions.
Well, but we should also point out, Nadabu, that it isn't for just those who are resident in the Southeast. It also includes the other, also affects persons who are traversing the Southeast. So if you were coming from Delta State, for instance, which is nearby, and in the South-South, you couldn't traverse through the Southeast. If you were coming from Cross River, if you were coming from Benue State, if you were coming from Akwa Ibom or Bayelsa or elsewhere, you will be affected by the lockdown that has been on for a long time now. Now, it remains to be seen which of the directives will be complied with, today being a Monday, that of the governor, who has directed civil servants to report at their duty post, or the usual sit-at-home that has become an abnormal normality. We shall have guests who will speak to measures being taken to put an end to the sit-at-home syndrome, as well as the general insecurity in the Southeast. So on that note, welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Yusuf Nadabu Usman, also welcoming you to the program. We are reaching you on the network service of the NTA and from our headquarters here in Abuja, the nation's capital. We will bring you complimentary segments at the appropriate time. And for now, here is the morning news with Nolan Ebel Ame. Good morning, Nolan.
Good morning, Nadavo and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Christians in Nigeria joined others all over the world to commemorate Palm Sunday, with clerics urging members of their congregations to emulate the life of Jesus Christ, who exhibited humility but later wore the crown of glory.
He suffered it, he went through it, but he emerged victorious.
The Plateau Elders Forum has condemned the lingering attack on communities in Mianga area of Basa local government area of the state. In a statement by the spokesman Jonathan Ishaku, the forum commiserated with relatives of the bereaved and wished the injured speedy recovery. It called on the government to work closely with the military to tackle the menace. Kaduna State government is yet to confirm the authenticity of a video clip circulating on social media platforms suggesting military repelled attack on Kakura village in Chukun local government area. A statement by the State Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, says government is yet to receive formal security briefs from relevant agencies. The state government, therefore, urges citizens to exercise restraint on the matter and await further information. 101 parcels of cocaine concealed in 8 children duvet is intercepted by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, at the Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos. The illicit drug, with an estimated gross weight of 13.2 kilograms, was brought into the country by a 52-year-old suspect from Brazil on Saturday, 9th April 2022. In a related development, a 37-year-old suspected drug trafficker was also arrested at the Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, upon arrival from Johannesburg, South Africa. He was arrested with 730 grams of skunk concealed in detergent containers. Meanwhile, over 800 kilograms of illicit drugs were seized in Lagos, Edo, Zamfara, Akwa Ibom, and Ondo states, while 4 persons were arrested in connection with the crime. And talking politics now, all the presidential aspirants from the southeast on the platform of the People's Democratic Party have resolved to work together as a team to ensure that a Southeasterner emerges as the party's standard bearer for the 2023 presidential election. This decision was reached at their meeting in Abuja.
We have agreed to work together as a team. We intend to consult with other zones on this issue, and it is based on fairness and equity. In doing so, it is important to note that we have always supported other zones, and we now expect them to reciprocate.
Still on politics, former head of state General Abdul Salami Abubakar has re-echoed the need for Nigerians to elect leaders that will take the country out of the current security challenges and work towards the sustainability of its integrity. The former head of state gave this insight when he received a presidential aspirant, Professor Christopher Imomolin, under the platform of Accord Party in Mina.
Ones should fade away gracefully and allow the young people to come so that we can mentor them and tutor them and help them in whatever way we can in order to lead this country.
That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Kinsley and Nadabo after this break. Stay with us.
Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Muhammad International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the states.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B, all-round protection. It's great value. It protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems, which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
COVID-19, that is the black swan of the century, has actually hit the whole world very hard, even the strongest of economies, and Nigeria was not spared. But due to the proactive stance and steps that the president has taken, We've been able to come out quickly. The president has consistently said we must invest in infrastructure. Even as we're investing in human capital, that we must invest in infrastructure. Because at the end of the day, that is what will bring about a sustainable economic growth. So the president has given us our directive. He has said you must make sure you pay salaries and pay pensions, but you also make sure that the critical projects of roads, railway, airports, bridges, major infrastructure that are meant to drive the growth of the economy, that we consistently invest in them, even if we have to continue to borrow to do so.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Next is Business News with Comfort Amodu.
We want to utilize trade as a means of generating revenue for the country.
The federal government has continued to accord commercial agriculture the attention it deserves while evolving ways to reposition the sector. It's a development that experts say should be sustained as government redoubles efforts to reposition Nigeria as a regional hub of food production, agri-tech innovation, and entrepreneurship development.
Whatever it is you do economically, remember, is driven by demand. And demand is driven, again, by procurement and purchases.
Demand is growing on sesame and ginger, which is also a healthy product. Gum arabic is exported mainly to companies who use it for spray drying, and then for food items, especially the grade 1. We are trying our best to always, try and move forward, increase our volume of trade and export, hopefully with the support of the government.
They express belief that harnessing value chain of the agri sector will enhance government's strategic drive to boost the nation's economy.
Well, many thanks, Comfort Amadu, for the business package. Next for us on the program is the newspaper review.
All right, we are expecting Bayo. If he does come around before we wrap up the session, of course, he'll be with us and then take it from where we've stopped. Nandabo and I will go through the headlines and then have a conversation around the issues. Let's begin by taking a look at the Nation newspaper. Now, the mid section of the Nation newspaper has the headline for the lead story, double-decker and two riders. Oshibajo to APC governance, I'm running for president, says he has informed Buhari and vice president to declare today. The information we have now is that the vice president, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, learned senior advocate of Nigeria, has indeed declared to run for the office of the president of the Federal Republic in the 2023 general elections. Now, below that, Electoral Act 8412, that's Section 84, subsection 12, appeal court stops Malami. PDP gets not to appeal Umuahia ruling. 2023, Southern PDP aspirants clash with Southeast governors. Ayim and Obi angry with Ikbazu and Ogwanye over Wike. And right at the foot of the front page there, Nigerians go through pains for NIN registration. And insecurity won't stop polls, says INEC. So let's go back to the top of the Nation newspaper, above the name flag. Nigeria's COVID-19 cases rise by 45%. WHO, virus still spreading. 37 billion naira National Assembly renovation begins. Contractors mobilized. That's the rider to that. Village head, 14 others killed in Kaduna attacks. Many feared killed, houses burnt in Plateau and Ebonyi. And below the nameplate, NDLEA intercepts 101 parcels of cocaine in children's duvet at Lagos Airport. Federal government to raise 700 billion naira for pension liabilities. Civil servants and policemen targeted. Madabo.
Okay, thank you, Kinsley. We have here the leadership newspaper. Let's have the leadership newspaper and then see what which stories are there on the front page. Above the masthead, above the nameplate, we have some two stories there, one on page 12 and the other on page 6. The one on page 12 says PNB governors rejoice with Dangote at 65. That's President Muhammadu Buhari and governors rejoice with Dangote at 65. And on page 6, bandits kill Mieti Allah chairman, 4 others in FCT. And coming down under the main plate, we have this story on page 7 that says InfraCo begins operation with 163 billion naira investment in transport logistics. Page 7. Just like Kingsley rightly pointed out from that newspaper, the leadership also has this headline on Oshibanjo 2023. Finally, Oshibanjo joins presidential race, raising stake to new level. And the story is on page 4, and the riders are VP to ride on deep bones, relationships with state governors, astute politicians across party divides. The second rider is host APC governors to Iftar at his Abuja residence. And as you might have heard, he has already declared, and whenever we have the pictures and the videos, we'll bring them to you in the course of this presentation. On the right flank of the page, we have 3 stories. On page 12, troops kill 18 ISWAP terrorists in Lake Chad Basin. Troops kill 18 ISWAP terrorists in Lake Chad Basin, page 12. And on page 38, 2023, Jonathan's kinsmen warn against propaganda over ex-president's tenure. And finally, at the bottom of that very angle, we have PwC, which means PricewaterhouseCoopers rates e-Naira first in global digital currency. PwC rates e-Naira first in global digital currency index. Details of that on page 27. Bayo, very warm welcome.
Good morning, Yusuf. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning. Well, let's give you the breaking news. It's been announced that Professor Yemi Oshibajo has declared his intention to run to succeed President Muhammadu Buhari. Last night, he held an iftar breakfast dinner for governors on the platform of the All Progressive Congress. Of the 12 of the 23 APC governors were reported to be present. He had earlier on reportedly notified President Muhammadu Buhari of his formal intention to succeed him. His candidacy was set to have been announced today, and it has just been announced. But the weekend was a weekend of declarations. The Minister of Transportation, Honorable Rotimi Amechi, used the prayer session at Port Harcourt to also announce his intention. When it was his turn to speak, he said, "I wish to declare my intention to run as your next president." In fact, he started the race there in the stadium by jogging rounds to exhibit to everybody that he's fit and ready for the race. Also, Pastor Tunde Bakari, you remember him? He was one time the running mate of President Muhammadu Buhari in the previous election. He also has indicated his intention to run. However, the platform of the party he is to run has not been indicated. Like the weekend was Palm Sunday, Dr. Chris Ngege used the weekend to give notification and says he has started consultation about his intention to run. And by next week, during Easter, he will formally also announce his intention. So that is that on the political scene. But there are other indications. Last Friday, there was another power outage which led to the collapse of the national grid. This affected a electricity distribution company, Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, as well as Kano Electricity Distribution Company. The special advisor to the President on Infrastructure, Ahmed Zakari, had traced this power outage to sabotage. He says that the 330 kV tower power around in Akwa Ibom was sabotaged, and that is what led to it. And he is lamenting that, unfortunately, the transmission line infrastructure covers several thousand kilometers, so it becomes very difficult to monitor every aspect of it. But he says, sadly, Nigerians, for who the electricity is meant for, don't seem to give any information, and persons, for whatever reasons, will deliberately sabotage the electricity. So again, if you see something, say something, because that goes a long way to help all of us. And in the courts area of the courts, the Court of Appeal, Owerri Division, has granted the appeal of the People's Democratic Party challenging the expunging of Section 84(2), you remember, of the Electoral Act 2022, as directed by an Umuahia Federal High Court. The presiding justice, Rita Pemu, is reported in the Daily Trust to have said that he made an enroll order against the ruling of the Federal High Court. Accordingly, he has directed that the parties be served by Tuesday, April 12, and they should file a notice of appeal to all the parties, and their respective briefs should be within 3 days of service. The appellant is also to have 3 further days to file a reply. The matter is adjourned till the 4th of May for hearing. You recall that an Umuahia High Court ruled that the Attorney General of the Federation should get Section 84(2) expunged from the Electoral Act. Meanwhile, in the area of criminality, the terrorists that attacked Kaduna-bound train on the 28th of last month have also featured a second video. It is reported in many papers that the armed persons were seen among train passengers who spoke under duress. Among those who were featured is an Asian, a gentleman who is of an Asian region. Another is a student of the Kaduna State University. A third is a staff of the defense industry, while a fourth man who was showed was not identified. It may be recalled that in the first video last week, the bandits had given grounds that they released the managing director of Bank of Agriculture on grounds of old age and a gesture of Ramadan. Ironically, taking people hostage is against the compassion of Ramadan. The federal government has indicated that it will not rest until the abducted persons have gained their freedom. In another story, which I think Yusuf read earlier on, another video has featured soldiers gallant soldiers of the Nigerian Armed Forces who were in camouflage, taking on what appeared to be neutralized bandits and loading them on vans. The residents of Kakura, which is in Chuku local government area, reported that there was an attack in the village around 11 p.m. But the villagers supported the soldiers and the vigilance group, and they were able to neutralize at least about 13 of the attackers. And that is what the video has been trending on the social media. However, the Commissioner for Internal Security for Kaduna State, Samuel Arua, says that, yes, there are several security operations going on, and he will have to confirm to ascertain which of the security operatives gain that success against the criminals. So that is so far the outlook in the areas of politics, security, and our hearts must go out to our compatriots who are under the captive of these criminals who took them since 28th of March.
Well, it's unfortunate that the hostage situation with the passengers on that ill-fated Abuja-Kaduna train service, the passengers are still in captivity. The video you talked about, I also saw it, and one of the captives is actually a retiree of the Defense Industries Corporation. She's a woman, and the others, of course, who also spoke were there. I counted at least 14 of the hostage takers. Were all armed, dressed in some dark uniform. I couldn't immediately figure out the color of whether it was army camouflage or whether it was just plain black. 14 of them armed, and they were in a clearing, that's to say in an open space, just sitting or standing underneath a tree, which meant that they organized that for their purpose. A hostage situation is usually a very tricky one. I think that there are about 20 of those hostages still with them at the moment, and everything should be done to ensure that there is no harm to the hostages. There are negotiations going on. Let the negotiations continue. As you have said, this is against the spirit of Ramadan. The acting MD of the Bank of Agriculture was released on grounds of his age, which is unstated, and the fact that it was also Ramadan. So we expect that the Ramadan spirit will be extended to the others who are still saying. We do recall that, of course, there were at least 8 passengers on that train who died, who didn't have the benefit of being either hostages or being in hospital to receive treatment. And their families are still in mourning. And the families of these 20 or 21 hostages, of course, are in serious pain and crisis arising from what has happened. So the hostage situation is a delicate one, as we all know. The safety of the hostages is critical.
In these abductions, Kingsley and Bayo, when you look back, sometimes we only cast our minds to really recent events. Just get back to even the Chibok girls from that time to this time, and then see how many are still in captivity.
Yes.
You can't even tell. There are so many.
Yes.
So many of them, so much so that there was, an article I read sometimes ago in the newspaper that says, the ordinary person that never makes a headline. And of course, there are so many of them who have been captive in so many places and so many bushes. And while some few individuals really have made it, when they are captured, they become really top stories, and the journalists are really doing some justice to Nigerian masses and the rest of them. But generally speaking, those in captivity are just as many as one can think of because of the incidences since 2014 and to date. And I think such light and focus should be on those in captivity generally, and try as much as possible to get them out by.
It's very sad, especially when criminal gangs go and grab innocent people and then just hold them to ransom. You still have about 101 of the Chibok girls still not accounted for. Yeah. If you go to Depchi, there's still one student that is being held. Some time ago, there were information that the lady had even put to bed. If you go to federal government college Yauri, some students are still unaccountable for. Bethel Baptist College, one student is still not accounted for. So you have pockets of them here and there. Yeah. And it's a matter of concern. Our house must go out to the members of their families and even they themselves, because what they are going through is very unimaginable.
That's right. You don't know what they are eating. You don't know what they are drinking. You couldn't have potable water in that kind of environment. And every day you wake up, it's a bonus, as it were. And so we just hope and expect that those who are skilled in negotiating with hostage takers will kick in if they haven't already done that. I imagine they have. Today is 2 weeks since that incident occurred. Horrifying, and the services have not resumed on that axis. So we do hope that this will be taken into account. As we said, on politics, it's a season of declaration, which is also very interesting. But again, we can also just draft a script and keep it aside as the primaries get close, or even on the day of the primaries or on the eve of the primaries. You will also hear the stories of people stepping down on account of pleas, from supporters or in deference to some other authority. So, okay, I'm stepping down now.
Horse trading.
Horse trading is part of it. I'm stepping down now when you realize that the chances are bleak for the individual. So it's also exciting. Politics ordinarily it's an exciting business, and the election year or season is a pretty interesting one. You have all kinds of drama and all that, but if you remove the violence, it's usually very sweet.
For now, they are all aspirants until the primaries of the respective parties, when we will now be sure the candidates will merge.
And that's going to be the next step in trying to get 2023 really actualized. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you so much, Bayo.
Thank you.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Please stay back. The program continues in a moment.
As the world advances, Samuel Adegboyega University, Ogwa, Edo State, is poised to deliver world-class education rooted in strong academic traditions. In the colleges of law, basic and applied sciences, humanities, management, and social sciences, Samuel Adegboyega University is building the next generation of leaders. Hurry now for 2021-2022 undergraduate and postgraduate admissions into any of our NUC fully accredited programs. Secure admission today in one of the fastest growing private universities in Africa. Also note that the university runs diploma, JUPEB, part-time and tuition-free programs. For more information, visit www.sau.edu.ng or call 0705 079 1226. Samuel Adegboyega University, to nurture for discipline and excellence.
This Ramadan, start your day with the goodness of pig to help you stay nourished through the day. Encourage acts of kindness, big or small, and share love and nourishment with everyone around you. Stay nourished from Sahur to Iftar. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak. A new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively with Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC.
We have unveiled the 622 as a toll-free line through which consumers can be able to lodge their complaints. And we have introduced the 112 as a national emergency number.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment,
Road Network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government and it is deserving of all the applause.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
You're on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, as a prompt for our conversation, which is on addressing the sit-at-home syndrome in the Southeast, let's listen to this background put together by our correspondent, Joseph Otsen.
It all started as an annual event to remember those who died in the Nigeria's Biafra War, specifically those from the eastern part of the country. The ideal sit-at-home was for the living to sacrifice at least a day to remember the dead and to keep alive the struggle and advocacy of people from the Southeast for equity, justice, and a fair society. The action was voluntary, with roads deserted, shops and many businesses closed, and residents staying home. Only government offices were usually open initially, but even at that, staff operated skeletal services in affected states. For a region where day-to-day running of businesses means so much to citizens, especially those who live by daily income, many saw it as a huge demand, but worthy. Over time, however, the sit-at-home is metamorphosing and revealing itself as a tool not for the general interest of the people of the Southeast, but a weapon for separatist agitators and mischief makers. For the movement for the actualization of the sovereign state of Biafra, MOSOP, and the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, the sit-at-home was deployed for their quest for self-actualization. But even when they have seen lifted the order, today groups with vested interests are taking advantage of the exercise, and the call is becoming more frequent with no recourse to the socio-economic implication on the affected states, communities, and the people. After the arrest and detention of the acclaimed leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, the sit-at-home is now being used to draw attention to his plight and to see if they can hold the government on the neck to release him. But in all this, the innocent bears the brunt, as government now enforce a Monday sit-at-home every week. They attack at will anyone who disobeys their orders, attack government facilities with businesses losing millions of naira, while citizens live in fear and many scared to travel back home. Weighing the devastating impact of the sit-at-home on socio-economic activities, Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State on the 4th of April declared an end to the Monday sit-at-home in Anambra State and offered amnesty to agitators still in hideout.
But all I can tell on the Anambra is that we are resolved, a total resolve, to stamp out criminality from this land. And with God on our side, Anambra people are irrepressible.
With a heavy toll on the economy of the East and the nation, what really is the sit-at-home agitators trying to achieve? People have also wondered why armed agitators attack the same people they claim to be fighting for and destroying their businesses. Do they imagine agitators understand the implication of their actions? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will give perspectives to the issues.
Well, lifting the sit-at-home in southeastern Nigeria is our topic this morning, and joining us in the studio to discuss the topic is Oshita Okechukwu, Director General, Voice of Nigeria. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Chief Oshita.
Good morning.
Thank you. Also joining us on the conversation here in the studio is Chief Great Imo Jonathan, Public Relations and Media Consultant. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure. I won't say that I'm not a chief because it's costly to be a chief.
Just be, you've already been given the title.
Thank you very much.
All right, and also here with us in the studios is Chris Agiri, founder, Flag Foundation of Nigeria. A pleasure to have you with us this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, now, gentlemen, you listened to the background report by our correspondent, fairly elaborate, fairly detailed. But just to begin this conversation, how did it happen that the Southeast now finds itself in a lockdown on a weekly basis that reduces the working week from 5 days to 4 days, and indeed affecting businesses and social activities? Let's begin with the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria.
Let me start by saying that the leadership of Nibo, Johanese, and elder statesmen like Mbazluka Mechi, and generality of the Igbos had called to a halt to the sit at home. And when you go through the history of such protests, sit in, sit down, sit at home, one of the famous was by Mahatma Gandhi in India in the 30s. What was he protesting for? The British colonial masters leveled a salt act that prohibits Indians from mining salt unless you are going through the British companies or selling salt. And Gandhi looked at it and said, it is one of the most precious items in the diet of an Indian. He protested and led a group about 78 at the beginning, from there to Dandi, the Arabian Sea, and started mining salt in spite of the British objection. By the time Gandhi, about 3 weeks walk for 241 miles, he had gathered over 10,000 Indians behind him. You go to the Americans, where they were sitting, but these were in restaurants where there was segregation of blacks, and the Congress of Racial Equality and others objected to such segregation, and in schools, and even in drugstores. In the case of my own people, I tried to locate the minuses and the pluses. And the minus is in the majority. I do not see the benefit of that sit at home. Because when Gandhi did his own, he had a given target and achieved that. When Miss Bernice Fisher did her own in Oklahoma, she had a given target, school segregation. If you are trying to do something for the Igbos, without being modest, I would say that we, the Igbos, are one of the foremost patriots of the country. We live in Shaki, we invest. We live in Duse, we invest. We live in Oron, we invest. We live in Mubi, we invest. Are we the people who are fighting in an enclave on behalf? But the good thing is that I also understand from IPOP that they have also rescinded. They have said they are no more part of it, but they have opened the bottle and the Chile had erupted. Because like in such instances, you have some ruffians who will cash into the process without good intentions. I think it's coming to a close, especially now that His Excellency Charles C.C. Soludo is giving bite with state power and gusto. In spite of the challenges he's facing, I think what I will plead is that other governors of the South should join Professor Soludo in trying to insist that the objective is faulty, the intendment, you cannot, as they say, you cannot cut your nose to spite anyone's face. And if you are doing it for the Igbos, as I said, you're not doing it for the Igbos because all over the country, we live happily across the length and breadth of the country. And we also invest where we live. And the poverty in the land is not peculiar to the Igbos. The unemployment is not peculiar to the Igbos. The hunger is not peculiar to us. It is a general malice that is being fought by both federal, state, and the local councils. We're fighting to reduce unemployment in the country. We're fighting to reduce the hunger in the country. We're also fighting to reduce insecurity. So it's not peculiar. So my own is an appeal. It's an appeal because I don't want to go back to where I started, because some of the people who are leading it were not with us in Biafra. And even if we are with us, anything that has a beginning should have an end. Thank you.
At least, hopefully the end is in sight right now, because it has been lifted, and of course the state government is taking charge of everything. Chief Jonathan, although you say you don't want to be referred to as a chief anyway, but all the same, just take it from us this morning. Again, we would ask really what we ask Chief Osita. How did we arrive here? If in faraway places, we find in other climes, we find reasons as to why such should happen, why people should sit at home or get locked down for certain reasons, and it paid. Here we are. Although it has been lifted, but we're just trying to look back and then say, so that we don't just find ourselves in it somehow.
Well, I always say to people that societies rise and fall on the altar of leadership. Whatever that is happening in the Southeast today is as a result of failure of leadership. And here, both the political, the cultural, the religious, all of these representatives of these institutions have failed to do their jobs in the times past. We got to a point, for example, even the religious leaders were beginning to worship those with money. They never cared, like it was in the times past. When you get to your village, you made money, somebody will ask you questions, but this time, people began to worship those who could build cathedrals for a whole community. And while that was going on, we lost focus on what should be done. We lost attention that should have been paid to the growing generation. There was no time to invest in terms of morality, in terms of guidance, in terms of caring for their future. Today in the Southeast, in communities, you see, in the times past, you used to think it was those who went to universities that could join courts. But today in the Southeast, you see keke drivers, Okada riders, you see mechanics, becoming members of court groups, and community leaders don't even know. They don't even pay attention. It is from this group of people, and coupled with the poverty in the land, unemployment, and lack of education, it is from this population that these leaders of these agitating movements were able to mobilize. So the quality of membership of this movement to start with. Because in the times past, there have been agitations, and for which I said there will continue to be agitation, and which, whether it is in Igbo or any other part of Nigeria, must have rights to agitate for anything for which they are not comfortable about in the nation. But sometimes the problem lies with the quality of membership of those agitating. And like DG said, it got to a point that even those who are leading the agitation, when they said we are no longer part of it, they can no longer stop it because of the characters that populate the movement. So now, also coupled with those other elements that were not part of it, who found it as an opportunity to participate in the destruction which they are usually part of, which they are known for. They were all aggregated into this so-called struggle. Especially, there was this character in Finland called Simon Ipa. And from all indications, from all the findings, he was not originally an IPOB member, because they had their initiation process from the research done. He was never initiated, but they were one of those people who were giving voice to what Nnamdi Kanu was saying. After Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, from there in Finland, he started mobilizing the violence that is happening now in the southeast, to the extent that he had a fallout with the IPOB group, and they started calling him autopilot. And now,
great Imo,
yes.
Thanks for the information you are giving.
Yes.
But we do not have the gentleman here in the studios or via remote link to contemporaneously respond to what you are saying. So we will apologize and then request you to make your points either without calling names. We do not know for a fact that the gentleman you're talking about is indeed in cahoots with IPOB on the level and scale that you have just mentioned. Please continue with your response.
Okay, I will accept that, but it's all over the social media. I think DG yourself, you should know about it. Why I'm saying that is that for us to always get to the root of the problem, truth must also be said. And in dealing with it, all information that needs to be given must be given, so that we look at all the variables and all the issues leading to this crisis. And I talked about poverty of leadership. I talked about the splinter groups. I talked about issues of drug. I talked about issues of unemployment. Then going forward also, in responding to it, there must be the proliferate mobilization, because especially as it is with us in history, there has never been any time when the Igbo people or the Southeast have faced this kind of problem without mobilizing the people. When we had the Tokoto problem, it was not the federal government that solved it. Then when we had the Bakas issue, it was the proliferate mobilization that led to the struggle against crime in the Southeast. So as it is right now, we have gotten to a point where we say that even in the Southeast now, you don't see police. For there to be any solution, the people must gather, they must arise, they must work together from community to community, local government by local government, state by state. And good enough, Governor Soludo, like the DG said, is giving a bite to that movement. And it behoves on other leaders to join him across political parties, across all religions. They must join together from all the forests to all the communities and boundaries of Igbo land. If we rise to fight this thing, there's no way. In fact, as I'm talking to you this weekend, there is somewhere called Ichi. They've arrested a certain herbalist who was working with some of this group of people, and his home was being used as a hideout and where they keep the kidnapped people. And eventually, after he was arrested and some of those were arrested, investigation have led to arrest of about 7 more people from the immediate community who were like informants. So it is when the people rise up, provide the information, work with the security agencies, that will have the solution. For me, that is the missing point right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief Jonathan. Chris Aguirre, let's have your perspective.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. A lot been said. Let me start by commending Professor Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, for extending the olive branch to I say agitators, IPOB members, setting the track for dialogue. Because after all said and done, everybody comes to the round table for discussions. Having said that, I think it behoves on the Southeasterners, the political leadership and community leaders, to rise up to the challenge. Now, what is happening in the Southeast now, you see the criminal elements trying to take the place hostage. And the Igbos, by their nature, abhor such, and it cannot continue. Let them isolate. Soludo have started discussions with the IPOB leadership and so on and so forth. According to what happened, the news from Anambra State, he said that a lot of majority of people, 85% of those so far arrested, are not Anambarians. In fact, they are criminal elements. And so, because these criminal elements, their intent and purpose is completely different. The Southeasterners are suffering. The Southeast economy is falling, and it cannot continue that way. I am of the opinion that other Southeast governors should take a leaf from what Soludo has set in motion. Probably extend, an olive branch, open the room for dialogue in all the states. The governors must rise up this time because the election is coming, and then begin to discuss with them. Isolate the real agitators from criminals. The criminal elements should be treated accordingly. The real agitators, their leader is already in court. The court process is ongoing. So far, it's progressing well. So the court process may be slow. There's nothing anybody can do about that because that's the last hope of the common man. And having said that too, what is the origin of the IPOB agitation? The agitation is that they were marginalized. I'm also of the opinion that the federal government, because Southeast is part of the federation, if Southeast economy is suffering, it will rub off negatively on the entire country. The federal government should also come in and give bites, pay attention to some of those things they are agitating. They talked about marginalization. Okay, so far, for the past 7 years, I don't know what their strategy have achieved. Election is coming. Even the APC, the ruling party, will go to the Southeast to campaign for votes. I strongly advise the federal government, President Buhari, to find a way. At least they talk about, there was one of these the people that crack jokes in the Southeast, he was railing out, this was not given to them, even if it is prisons. I know that I read in the papers that the current leadership of Nigerian immigration, his term will soon expire. Find somebody from the Southeast within the hierarchy that is qualified within the immigration and appoint. So that when these boys are talking and agitating, we can say, come on, it's better late than never. See, this one is from the Southeast. It's now head of immigration as a way of a general inclusiveness, as a way of patronizing and persevering, to get them, begin to see a stronger sense of belonging, a stronger sense of togetherness, so that we can have something to convince those of them who are hell-bent on, separation and all the rest of them. Some of those reasons they are given, let us address it one way or the other by patronizing them, at least by that low-hanging fruit in the immigration. That's on one hand. Then, what is happening in Imo and Anambra is not happening in Abia. That's relative calm in Abia. What's the strategy the Abia governor applied? That should, other governors should also, follow suit and see how best peace can be returned.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris Aguirre, for your initial comments. We will get back to you in the course of the conversation. We are being joined by another guest. He's a regular on Good Morning Nigeria. This time he's joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Dr. Muda Yusuf is the CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. And most recently, he was the Director General of LCCI. That's the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Muda Yusuf, delight to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And
good morning.
All right, straight away, it appears that perhaps we have not had a calculation of the economic cost of the weekly lockdown in the Southeast. And to imagine the 5 states that are affected and the commercial activities that take place in those states, whether in Onitsha, Nnewi, Aba, Ogbete Market in Enugu, and elsewhere, plus, of course, those who ordinarily would traverse the state. How do you attempt to quantify those weekly losses from the Southeast and indeed other parts of the country?
Yes, the South
southeastern part of the country is a major component of the Nigerian economy. As you know, when you talk about entrepreneurship and enterprise, the southeastern part of the country is a leading player as far as enterprise and entrepreneurship is concerned in Nigeria. Their contribution to the economy, particularly in the area of trade and industry, is very, very phenomenal. So when we have this kind of disruption, it does not only affect those who are in the southeast, it affects the entire economy because it's a major integral component of the Nigerian economy. We have quite a number of businesses that connect to the southeast. We have a lot of businesses from where the southeast are connected to other parts of the country and even other parts of the world. It's not for nothing that you have direct international flights to that region. It speaks to the volume, the value of businesses that takes place there. So the economic costs, it's not just to those who are southeasterners or those who are resident there. It's a huge cost to the entire economy. If we estimate the cost conservatively of the value of the southeastern economy, we'll be talking about nothing less than 30 trillion naira. And when you have this kind of progressive disruption to that economy, you can now estimate the loss to the country. Already globally and nationally, the economy is not in such a good shape because of all sorts of factors, some of them global, some of them domestic. A lot of investors are struggling. The macroeconomic environment is not very, very stable. So this is further complicating the problem because we have enough challenges already in the economy, particularly around investments. So when you now have this, what I can call a self-inflicted problem or distraction, it has a very serious impact on investment, both in the southeast and in the entire country. It's affecting sales, it's affecting turnover, it's affecting the capacity to create jobs. It's affecting the attractiveness to also invest in the southeast and even to grow investment also that already exists in the southeast. So there's a major investment effect. And of course, even for governance, part of the major responsibility of government in that region is to cater for the welfare, the progress and economic development of the region. When you have these periodic, sporadic issues of insecurity here and there, it creates a major distraction to those who are in government to deliver value of governance to the people. So it's a major issue even for governance, the capacity of government to be able to take care of the people in the southeast. Then it has implications also for even government revenue. Because government revenue is a function of investment. If investors are not doing well, if there is a huge problem of confidence among investors, then you have a major problem even with the government able to generate revenue to be able to cater for the welfare of the people. So it has implications also for government revenue. And if you are not careful, this is also could lead to gradual isolation, which is not good for anybody in the country, not just the southeasterners. Because when we say this economy is big, it's big because of these component parts. And it's an integral thing. The economies of this country, this country is interconnected from one region to the other. So whatever happens in terms of disruption in one region affects the entire country. So it's also a problem in terms of economic isolation, the confidence of investors, whether they are domestic or foreign, and even the perception of the country itself, in addition to the perception of the region as an investment destination. So these are some of the major economic and business and investment concerns that these developments are generating.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muda Yusuf, speaking to us via Zoom there from Lagos. Osita Okechukwu, we've heard what Yusuf said, and of course, Agiri, and then Great Igbo here. My concern has always been with the issue of such being a prolonged issue over time, and people watching and allowing it to go in spite of the losses, economically, socially, politically, because by the time everybody is locked down, that we've seen all over the country and all over the world, we can really, it's better imagine the losses in all spheres of life. I don't want to believe that the Southwesterners or those concerned have not been, conscious of the fact that it's a loss to each and every one of them, as it is for Nigerians. How did the Southeasterners, for instance, those in these states, allow such to continue and get prolonged for that long?
Let's not start doing why, how. There's a consensus of an appeal to our young ones to please stop disrupting the economic activities of the region. Muda is talking about the investors. There are those hawkers who hawk tomato. If they don't come to the market, they will eat that day. There are those that hawk bread. If they don't go out that day, they will eat that day. There are those that boil akara, kose. If they don't do it that day, they won't sell. Before you start talking of even the vendor, the vendor on the street is out of the number of newspapers he sells on that Monday that he will go home to his family. So that's why collectively we are saying an appeal. Whatever is your grievances, that what we are doing by CTOM is affecting the investment, is affecting the agricultural investment of the federal government of Nigeria that is unprecedented. There is an irrigation scheme called Adada Irrigation Scheme. It was started in 1962 and stopped since after the war. President Muhammadu Buhari had invested over 3 billion in reviving it. If you continue to do CTOM, how do you benefit from that? We don't need to talk of others. So what we're saying is there's a collective appeal consensus. Please, please, please. Because if you start saying why, how, we'll not get anywhere. Because there are those whose own idea about the problem is not linked up to any tangible. One, they do not even realize that there are gains we are making out of democracy. That today, President Muhammadu Buhari has told the world, unlike former president, who said he wants to do third term, that he's going. Secondly, he has signed into law an electoral act that have returned power to the people. The Electoral Act 2022 said you must use smart card reader in every polling unit. Where it is not used, it should be cancelled. And that the voters should be electronically accredited at that polling unit and result transmitted at that polling unit electronically. So what does that mean? That you have no business with any thug who is waiting for you at the collation center anymore. What President Muhammadu Buhari and the National Assembly had done is what I call the vote rigging vaccine. You are now handy with that, assuming you do not regard investment made by the current federal government or state or local council. Please, your vote is now in your hand. That by less than 1 year ahead, You have your vote to determine who becomes a president. And luckily for my brothers who are agitating, my great party, the APC, had said that the presidency should come from the South. So instead of trying to isolate yourself, as Muda said, why don't you leave out and work towards making your own brother or your sister to become the next president of the country? If you think that way, you will gain mileage. As I said, nobody benefits by cutting his nose to spite somebody's face. You stop the Onitsha market. Who are the losers? Primarily, the same Igbos you are trying to protect or promote their independence or secession are the first losers before it goes to another person. Those kids, there was one of the Mondays that fell into a WAEC exam. The kids did not participate. We pray that the JAM own will not fall into a Monday as well. So we're talking of, you must talk of yourself first. If you actually mean to talk about yourself, you must talk of your economic well-being. You must talk of the future and the future of children and others. And secondly, yes, democracy is not a revolution. But the gains made in democracy is that today you can decide who is your leader. And all the political parties are going to align in that way because for us today, we've done a study of the Electoral Act and know that the Nigerian people, more than ever before, if President Muhammad Buhari did not achieve anything in his exit, the law he signed, called the Electoral Act 2022, will be one of his major legacies. So instead of trying to to cut your nose to spite anybody's face, get prepared. And some of these people, when you ask them about the performance of their local council, they don't care. But given the revenue allocation, the federal government gets about 52. Is now a recommendation has been done that it will be reduced? So the state gets about 26. Your local council gets about 20. But they're not interested in whether their councillor is doing well, whether the chairman of the local council is doing well with the money allocated from the federation account. Every blame is on the center. I think we have to find a way to reshape our thinking. I'm not saying because I'm talking from the center, but I'm saying really that if you check how much have been invested in agriculture, if you are doing sit at home, will you benefit from the Anchor Borers program? If you are doing sit at home, will you benefit from the irrigation system that the river basin authorities in your area are doing? Will you benefit from the loans being given by CBN at different levels of engagement? And even the social investment program of the humanitarian ministry of the federal government of Nigeria, you won't benefit from there. So it's an appeal that we are doing, as our icon, Mbazuluka Amechi, said. He told them, if we continue along this line, Mbazuluka Amechi remain one of the foremost nationalists that is still alive. And when an elder of such caliber is talking to youths, for God's sake, we're talking of 90-something years old man, a minister of the Fourth Republic, who had fought for the independence of the country under the Sikh movement, was jailed. Today he's still alive. And I think he cannot advise us wrongly. So my own is an appeal. We are now out of the blame game of who did that, who did that. What we're saying is that we're appealing to our youths in the Southeast and in Nigeria as a whole, that insecurity will not lead us to development or prosperity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Osita Okechukwu, for those words of advice. And I'm sure anybody watching you and seeing your silver head will know that you come a long way in this country, and of course in the southeast. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Earlier, we told you that the Vice President of the Federal Republic, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, learned senior advocate of Nigeria, has declared his intention to run for the presidency in the 2023 elections. We'll now listen to that now, and then, of course, take a short break thereafter.
Dear Nigerians, for the past 7 years, I have served as Vice President under a true Nigerian patriot, a servant of the nation in war and peace, and a man of integrity, President Muhammadu Buhari. We have, together, worked through some of the most difficult times in the history of our nation, but we have remained focused on securing the country, on providing infrastructure, and growing our economy. As stipulated by the Nigerian Constitution, our tenure will end next year. In this period of 7 years, I have served the government in several capacities, and I have, at the direction of Mr. President, represented our country in sensitive, high-level international engagements. I've been to practically all local governments in Nigeria. I've been in markets, in factories, in schools, and farms. I've been in agricultural, mining, and oil-producing communities, in the Delta, in Kebbi, in Enugu, in Borno, in Rivers, in Plateau, and Ondo, and in all other states of the Federation, listening to the diverse experiences and yearnings of our people. I've visited our gallant troops in the Northeast and our brothers and sisters in the IDP camps. I've felt the pain and anguish of victims in violent conflicts, terrorist attacks, flooding, fire, and other disasters. I've been in the homes of many ordinary Nigerians in various parts of the country. I have sat with our techpreneurs in Lagos, Edo, and Kaduna, with our Nollywood and Kannywood actors, with our musicians from Lagos, Onitsha, and Kano, and I've spoken to small and large businesses. I stood where they stood, and I sat where they sat. I know their hopes and aspirations and their fears. And I believe that in those hopes and aspirations are the seeds for the great. They must be put to the use of our country and its great peoples. Which is why I am today, with utmost humility, formally declaring my intention to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of our great party, the All Progressives Congress. If by the grace of God and the will of the people, I am given the opportunity, then I believe that first we must complete what we have started, radically transforming our security and intelligence architecture, completing the reform of our justice system, focusing on adequate remuneration and welfare of judicial personnel, and ensuring justice for all and the observance of the rule of law, rapidly advancing our infrastructure development, especially power, roads, railways, and broadband connectivity, providing an excellent environment for businesses to thrive, taking the agricultural revolution to the next level, especially mechanization and developing the farm-to-table value chain, making sure that the government, its agencies and regulators serve the business community, creating a tech economy that will provide jobs for millions of young Nigerians, enhancing our social investment program to a full-scale social welfare program, completing the promise of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within this decade, completing the task of ensuring that all Nigerians, male and female, attend school, reforming our educational system for relevance to the challenges of this century, completing the task of universal health coverage for all, at strengthening the capacity of states and local governments to deliver on their respective mandates. Above all, front and center of our efforts will be the provision of jobs and opportunities for our young people. I now most solemnly and respectfully seek the support of fellow Nigerians everywhere in this land and the diaspora, young and old, male and female, in the great and exciting journey that we have ahead of us. I seek your own support. We will, working together, establish by the grace of God the Nigeria of our dreams in a few short years. We will build on the foundation laid by our predecessors. We will need to move with much speed, intentionality, and perseverance towards the vision of a prosperous, stable, and secure nation. I'm convinced beyond doubt that we have the creativity, the courage, the talent, and the resources to be the foremost Black nation on earth. Let us now birth the expectations of greatness conceived generations before us. Let us build a Nigeria where the man from Nnewi sees the man in Guzo as his brother, where the woman in Warri sees the woman in Jalingo as her sister, where the love of our nation burns alike in the hearts of boys and girls from Boko to Yenagoa, where everywhere in this land is home for everyone, where our diversities, our tribes and faiths unite us rather than divide us. Let our tribes become one tribe, the Nigerian tribe, where all are treated fairly, justly, and with respect, where all are given equal access to the abundant opportunities that God has bestowed on this nation. It is time. God bless and keep our republic and her great people. God bless you.
157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
Do you run a breast or cervical cancer service? Are you a private or public laboratory, clinic or hospital that offer any of breast imaging, cervical cancer screening, HPV vaccination, or other breast or cervical cancer services? Is your service a primary, secondary, or tertiary center located in any part of Nigeria, no matter how remotely located it is? If yes to any of these questions, then subscribe to the OCI Foundation's Civic Breast app and become accessible and visible to millions of Nigerians. It is all for free. To subscribe, just type the Civic Breast application form on Google or go to the OCI Foundation's page on www.ocifoundation.org and search for Civic Breast application form. Complete the form and submit, and let millions of Nigerians patronize you, all for free. Become part of the OCI Foundation's quest to tackle breast and cervical cancers in Nigeria. And join us to rise by lifting others.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development,
peace and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The counsel of our fathers.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it run away from it.
Nigerian youth, let's build our nation together.
All right, you're welcome back and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on NTA's network service and we're still discussing how to lift the sit-at-home syndrome in the Southeast. That, of course, is causing a great deal of hemorrhage to the economy, not just of the Southeast, as our guest, Dr. Muda Yusuf, already indicated, but to the rest of the country at large, if not, of course, to other African countries whose citizens depend on transactions in that part of the country. Back to our guest in the studio, Great Imo. You listened to what Osita Okechukwu, DG of VON, was saying. He says, look, ultimately, and that's the point, we're appealing. The question then arises, appealing to whom? Appealing to whom? There are instances of persons who, out of desperation, indicating what he has ticked off, to say, look, I have to fend for myself on a daily basis, otherwise I'll go hungry. When those persons stepped out on Mondays like this, they were visited with a great deal of violence, in some cases, fatalities. So you say you are appealing. Appealing to
whom? That's a good question, because right now, it was said that IPOB was they were the ones who originated the sit-at-home. But on several occasions, they have come out to say they are no longer involved. So if IPOB officially have said we are no longer part of sit-at-home, if IPOB embodies the agitation against the Southeast marginalization or whatever, and they have come to say we are not part of what is going on, it means that every other person acting on behalf or constituting the crisis must be considered a criminal. Because whatever they are doing now is not known both to government and those who are even opposed to government officially, at least those who have been identified. So they must be considered criminals and must be treated as so. Because you can't be hiding behind an organization and be constituting a problem for them and constituting a problem for every other person. In such occasion, you must be seen to be, you are not only impersonating, you are also criminalizing others through your behavior. And that must be dealt with. And again, also, as DG said, we are appealing to whoever they are. But we can't keep on appealing to criminals. There must be carrot and stick. Good enough, Governor Soludo have said there is peace and reconciliation committee so that those who are rightly agitated, those who are wrongly, who have been wronged, especially in the times past, let's be sincere, when these guys go on protest, maybe some of them were killed. Yes, in Anambra and all those. But those who are supposed to be those ones have said, okay, we are ready to work with government. If IPOB is ready to work with government, if other agitating groups that are known to Nigerians are ready to work with government, every other person left must be counted as a criminal and everybody must join hands together to deal with them. And then, as we leaders also, DG, I'm using this opportunity to say that, as we're also appealing to our youth, to have a change of heart. There is also need to appeal to the leadership of the Southeast to also have a change of heart. Today, since the last 20 years, there have been budgets upon budgets of millions of billions of what they call constituency projects. We are not seeing them. The roads are not there. The infrastructures are not there. And as much as we also want to blame the states and the local government, we also have a blame for federal government, because the coercive authority and ability to bring to justice those who have refused to bring development to their lies with the federal government. The EFCC, the police, the DSS, have they investigated senators, House of Rep members, House of Assembly members, local government chairmen, governors, even those who no longer have immunity? Some of them, people have written petitions against them. They have not been brought to justice. And when these people are not brought to justice, you make the people angry. Some of these people see these people still riding in government convoy protected by Nigerian police. And you are still telling them to have a change of heart, when the leaders over there have not had a change of heart. So as we are appealing to the young people in the Southeast to have a change of heart, we are also appealing to the leadership to have a change of heart, from local government to state to federal. The change of heart to make these people see that as you want them to have a change of life, of lifestyle, and of heart, you too are changing. Things must change both ways. You can't keep telling them every time, oh, you must change, you must change. And then year in, year out, I'm from Abia State. In the last 7 years, over 800 billion have been received, not budgeted, because we have done analysis of what was received by local government and federal government, what was received from at federal allocation to local government and state. And as I'm talking to you, even if the governor have immunity, why are the commissioners of finance not being queried by federal authorities, which is the EFCC, the ICPC, and the rest of them, the commissioners for work? And this 800 billion, if they are utilized properly, there will be job created at the local government. There will be less pressure on federal government. Even some of these people doing all of this, nobody will have the motivation to even support them. So we have to change. The leaders and the elect, every one of us have a role here to play, so that we can begin to see that, okay, the next 2 years or 1 month, 3 months, we are beginning to give report and account of what we have done in the Southeast. Members of the House of Representatives, members of the Senate, local government chairmen, governors, let them come. You know that in the Southeast, governors don't even announce their award of contracts. You see a road being constructed, nobody knows how much. Years after, you wake up and discover that in a city like Aba, that somebody said he has constructed 9 kilometers of road, 7 kilometers of road with 9.something billion. That's over 1 billion for 1 kilometer of road. Who does that? And everybody is keeping quiet. This, even I that am seated here, I may not be a member of IPOB, but I'm agitated by this corruption, by this neglect, by this wickedness against the people. Imagine how many factories that would have been supported, how many jobs that have been created if these monies were utilized. And if the federal government itself did its own responsibility by arresting those who have created bad image of the federal government in the Southeast. So it cuts across. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Chief Greg Timo Jonathan, thank you so much. We can see the passion, with which you're speaking, and of course the concern deep beneath your heart, and of course what you really want done, because that's one of the reasons for the agitation. And of course, if people could really see, because as they always say rather in tax parlance, that it's easier to give when you see what is being made with what you give. So it's easy to pay the tax. So when you see what is being happening and what is happening with your, money, you will be able to at least submit to authorities. We'll get back to these issues maybe subsequently, and of course in some other, conversations ahead on this program. Chris Agire, Governor Sholudo, a sort of ordered the civil servants, I must say, to really resume to work 5 days in a week, as it is all over the country, and failure to do so, it's more or less, or rather will attract sanctions, as it were, according to the civil service rule, and that is going by his orders over the weekend. And when such orders come, and of course you look at the network in the Southeast, especially in Anambra State and some other states, you find security becoming a problem. How would this order hold water in this regard, given the fact that those that are supposed to be appeased have not been fully appeased and have not really come out to say it's no more?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Southeast situation. The Peace and Reconciliation Committee that Professor Saludo set up should be deepened. The people of Anambra State, the Anambarians themselves, that turned out against all us to vote for Saludo. We all here saw the prior to that election, it was a hopeless situation. But they dared it and came out and voted. I think, beginning from Soludo, I call on all Anambarians to rise up to the challenge and work with the governor at the community level, at all levels of governance in Anambra State. The people themselves, they have to take their destiny into their own hands. By the time the Southeast, as a unique culture, we have an adage that says one can cook for the community, but if community cooks for you, you cannot finish it. And so, not until there is this conscious and deliberate effort beginning from Anambra, from Anambarians to say, look, enough is enough. Like the governor said, there has to be security. I mean, how many are these criminals? The people perpetrating this evil, they're not up to 2%. They're not even up to 1% of their population of Anambra. It's a matter of reawakening the consciousness of the Anambarians and the Southeasterners as a whole to say, look, enough is enough. The place, the economically is collapsing, just like we had the economists here, analyze the situation. People have to become more conscious of the realities, the evil that had befallen us in the Southeast. That is on one hand. By the time the entire people, support the governor and say, look, we can't, just like you said, what happened in our Rift in Niche as he was stating, the community, the youth, took it upon themselves and said, look, this man, the herbalist that prepares charms for the criminals, they came up en masse and got the whole place burnt down. I'm not saying they should take laws into their hand, but it requires that community consciousness, that deliberate effort of all and sundry to say, look, we cannot allow this to continue. And for us to that, federal government should see this as it's a race against time. If they don't come up to give the governor the necessary federal support that's required, not in terms of might, not in terms of gun, but all encouragement that is required. I'm not talking for President Buhari or the APC government, but at least there's something to show. Look at the second Niger bridge. That was like something impossible. Today it's a reality. The Onitsha Enugu Expressway, I know the work is in progress. The Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway, work is in progress. These are tangible, verifiable, empirical evidences that you can use to appeal to people and say, look, this, that. Like I said earlier, there is a space, there's a low-hanging fruit in the migration. Let the federal government patronize somebody from the Southeast, somebody that is qualified, so that we can, well, as social commentators, if we're talking to this guy, we say, look at this. At least one of us is there to begin to appeal to their conscience. But generally speaking, there is failure of governance in the Southeast. The governors, the senators, the House members should be held accountable. There should be stewardship. There should be accountability. Because if you look at these guys, they look around Southeast. Honestly, there isn't much on ground. There isn't much on ground to give them hope. And who are those responsible for that? Every attention is forwarded at the center. What about the money that comes to the state and local government? Most in private pockets. Those that were charged for, embezzlement of billions and billions are all working free. It does not conjure hope. It doesn't give them hope. Honestly speaking, there's nothing on ground in Southeast to inspire hope on these guys. But that being the case, we should not allow them to take laws into their hands. The Nigerian state should not. The Southeastern leadership along the line, at the community, religious level, at all status, should not allow non-state actors to now dictate when you go out, how you go out, That's a failure of the state.
All right. Chris Aguirre, thank you very much there for the comments that you have made. Once again, let's bring in Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Muda Yusuf, we appreciate the highlights you gave of the economic cost of the weekly sit-at-home syndrome in the Southeast. But it should be curious that considering the widespread effect of the sit-at-home, not just on the Southeast, but elsewhere around the country, it does appear, I will state that again, that virtually everyone has taken it as a problem of the Southeast. Let them go and deal with it in the Southeast. Let Southeasterners deal with it. Is there a way we can broaden the level of intervention to include experienced negotiators who can be trusted by either the progenitors of the sit-at-home to say, look, these things are workable, these things are resolvable. And there are some other mechanisms that we can deploy considering the economic cost. The example of Soludo has been cited, but elsewhere around the Southeast, everyone appears to be sitting on their hands.
Yes, of course, all options should be put on the table. Because when we are dealing with matters like this, it's not just only about, the use of force or arms and things like that. It's also about engagement. And the engagement has to be as inclusive as possible. Because quite frankly, when we look at the issues of security or insecurity in Nigeria, is beginning to be a very serious cause for concern, particularly the capacity to deal with matters like this, strictly from a purely security apparatus approach. So there has to be a lot more engagement. I agree with you. We have had something similar in the South-South when at the peak of all these issues of insecurity in the South-South. But somehow, both through engagement and some of these actions, the situation was moderated. So I think all these other options of engagement, we need to deepen engagement. And this is not just about Anambra. This should be seen as a collective thing. First, at a regional level, I'm talking of the Southeast now because it has to be collectively dealt with. Because this thing seems to be spilling over from one state to the other, and you never can know when next, where next they will strike. So there has to be a regional approach. I also agree with you because of the integral nature and the interconnectedness of the regional economies. It is something that should be of concern to all the key economic and political players outside the Southeast. You can see what happened with all this issue of Boko Haram. First, it started from the Northeast. We were seeing it at that time as a local or localized problem in the Northeast, but look at where we are today. So it is important that we take it up as a national issue, and whatever we can contribute, both at the national level and all of that, to ensure that we have a lot more engagement to see whether we deepening the engagement can also work in this kind of matter, given the vulnerability of the whole system and given the fact that the state is also not inspiring sufficient confidence sometimes to deal firmly with this thing. So all options should be on the table. We need to ensure that we don't allow the situation to degenerate. We need to ensure that those who are creating jobs, because it is these businesses that are creating jobs. How much jobs can government deliver to the people? So if you are now having a situation where we are putting all these businesses and investors, everything at risk, then it could even be creating a lot more problems, not just for the region, but for the country. Because we have enough problems already. Our capacity to absorb shocks is very, very limited. Whether it is all these shocks coming from security, economic shocks, all these problems, we have very limited capacity to absorb all these things. So the earlier we respond to this as an emergency, putting all options on the table, I think the better for everybody.
Much, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Chief Osita. Okay, Mr. Osita.
Yeah,
the chief has, gotten on my tongue so much from Chief Great Imo Jonathan here. Osita Okechukwu. You've heard what Muda Yusuf said, and of course, it's supposed to be a collective responsibility now to move on. You've been an apostle of appeal and appeal to most people who are supposed to listen and then at least take up this issue. But at the bottom of it all is the issue of orientation or reorienting the people towards understanding the fact that this will not take us anywhere and it will not take anybody anywhere. Now, as Soludo has set the pace in the Southeast, and then it's pertinent to say that other governors too in the Southeast should follow suit and then try to move on in order to see to it that at the end of the day, people's thinking about this seat at home will change completely and become so positive. Talk to them again.
That's why I said from day one, while appeal is important, is that anybody that sits somewhere and think there's no unemployment of graduates, non-graduates, in the Southwest, in the South-South, in the Northwest, in the North-Central, and the Northeast, that is only in the Southeast, I'm appealing to them. That's not the situation. I'm also appealing that for you to think that what is going on is ethnic or tribal or religious, no. I came from a community, in Udi local government in Enugu, of about 100,000 persons home and abroad, oral history, 5 villages of 5 sons of the town. That town is divided over chieftaincy issue.
That's why you're not a chief.
No, I'm coming now. I'm coming. The town has collective, about 99% of them are Catholics of the Christian sect. So there's no Islam in it. They all speak Wawa dialect of the Igbo language. But it's divided. So that most of the time, we try to use ethnicity or religion as a tool. But most of the time, there's no village or town in the country that has no its own internal disagreements. So the Nigerian state should be looked into. There's the issue of Nigeria as an artificial geographical expression. No. The man that said so in the last century, Matnik, was an Australian envoy. He told an Italian. Italy still remains one country. But the Austrian Empire had got into about 6 independent states today. So let nobody tell us we're artificial, that part of our problem is because of ethnicity. No. Look in-house. So what we're saying is that the federal government of Nigeria had come with programs that's been rejected in my region. The agricultural program. Most of the communities there did not engage in the Ankoboraz program. Even the one NADA is doing. NADA said they have a program for 1 senatorial district. I don't think up to 3 senatorial zones in the Southeast had latched on to that program. So please, while we are saying, as my brother Chris said, we appeal to the federal government of Nigeria. If there are vacancies in the security apparatus, please give us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osita Okechukwu. Very quickly, Great Timo, as part of your closing thoughts, because we have less than a minute. There were reports in the past of the heavy-handed approach by the security agencies in dealing with acts of lawlessness and brigandage in the Southeast. But I also wonder, when you see the clips of the sit at home on a Monday, all the streets are deserted. there is virtually no presence of security agencies. Is it not possible for the security agencies to at least, not to show a force, but show their presence and protect those who are going about their normal businesses?
It is very possible, and it has to be done. The first thing that needs to be done, we need to get the buy-in of the people. For example, I've had the governor talk on TV, radio, and I've also seen where he had a meeting with the town unions development. Once this struggle is owned by the people, it becomes easy to do. Like I've mentioned it in times past, especially in the southeast, when we had Otokoto and we had Bakassi. It is always every time that the people decide to fight that will get solution. And the federal government have not literally been able. So the first thing to do is to convince the community people to get involved. Why the state is doing that? For example, we need to re-strategize security, whether in Anambra or in the southeast. We need the use of drone. People come to shoot in a community and drive a long distance. Nobody knows where they go to. Some of those things we can be able to say, okay, they go into this forest, then the kinetic approach can be taken to that. So we need to get the buy-in of the people for the campaign to percolate, towards the communities. Then the kinetic approach using, for example, I believe states now should have a kind of security trust fund, where if federal government does not have enough arms and ammunition for the police, you can purchase through federal government on your own behalf that will be dedicated to use in your state. And then we do some remuneration to encourage more police officers and all that. Have a special police squad, get helicopters, and things like drones to match it up. Why the campaigns go on, so the kinetic and non-kinetic can actually function very well.
Okay, Chief Greg Johnson, a public relations and media consultant, we thank you so very much. It's our pleasure. And we draw the curtain on this program right here. We must really thank Osita Okechukwu, Director General, Voice of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
I appreciate it.
And of course, Chris Agiri, founder, Flag Foundation of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
Thank you very
And
much.
a very big thank you also to Dr. Amuda Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise. It's our pleasure you've been part of us this morning. We say a very big thank you also to you out there for being part of Good Morning Nigeria today. We will still invite you to join us tomorrow for another edition of the program. On behalf of all of us, or rather, I will say, I am Mr. Nodabusman, instead of saying, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of Kingsley anyway.
I'm Kingsley. Do have a nice day.
Thank you very much.